Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. It is September 1st. Welcome to September. We finally made it. It is football season. As you can see, we got the counter here. We are 8 days away. Next Thursday, Dallas, Tampa Bay kicks off the new season for the NFL. So if you guys are cramming for your draft this Labor Day weekend, this is the video you need. We're going to be going through my last-minute draft advice. I did put a link in the description below. And it gets you to the Fantasy Fellowship. Under the free content section, I do have this article placed here. It is called My Players to Target Avoid. I should probably just call it Last Minute Advice. But what I did was I made a list of every team and the players that I don't mind having on my teams this year. So we're going to kind of just do a big sweep through the NFL. We'll point out my favorite players and the ones I like at ADP. So alphabetically, we're going to start with the Arizona Cardinals, and DeAndre Hopkins is the first one on the list. You can grab him in round 2. I have no problem with DeAndre Hopkins as your wide receiver 1, top 5 upside, yada, yada, yada. Hopkins is good. Take him round 2. Kyler Murray. Now, I don't get Kyler Murray a lot on my teams. I begin to think about him in the 5th round. If you watched the last video, this is part 2. I did this video last week, but some things have changed. So we're looking at quarterbacks. Kyler Murray, he's usually the 2nd or the 3rd quarterback off the board. If he's there in the 5th round and you like what you see, go ahead and grab him in the 5th round. Otherwise, for me, I'm kind of waiting to the 6th, 7th, 8th round for my quarterback. The running backs, James Conner and Chase Edmonds. I prefer James Conner because he's a little bit cheaper at ADP. If Chase Edmonds falls into the 7th round, I think that's where I begin to get a little excited about him. It definitely in PPR leagues. I think round 7 for Chase Edmonds. He can be your kind of, your RB2 flex, your RB3. He looks best as your 3. So I like Edmonds, but I prefer Conner just a little bit later. You can get Conner in the 9th, 10th round. He's probably going to lead that team in rushing touchdowns. Maybe Murray might lead the team in rushing touchdowns, but Connor's going to get the carries inside the 5, inside the 10, bigger running back. Yeah, that makes sense to me. And then if you're at the end of your draft and you want just a high upside rookie pick, Rondale Moore makes a lot of sense. I think it's fun. The Cardinals offense is going to be a really good one. Hopkins round 2, Murray, you can get one of the running backs, and then maybe Rondale Moore at the end. Not really interested in AJ Green or Christian Kirk. For the Atlanta Falcons, Calvin Ridley. I don't think anyone has anything bad to say about Calvin Ridley. He's a top 5 wide receiver this year. You can take him anywhere in round 2. I have no problem with that. He could be the wide receiver 1. He had better numbers without Julio Jones in the lineup last year. Kyle Pitts, probably the most interesting player, I think, in this year's draft because people really like him. He's a rookie tight end. You take him I've seen him go as early as the 4th round. I think for most standard league going on this weekend, he's going to be a 5th round pick. And if you miss on the top 3 guys, I get it. Kelsey, Waller, Kittle. Those are the top 3 guys, but outside of that, I don't think there's a guy with much more upside than Kyle Pitts. So for me, if you want to just pencil Kyle Pitts in round 5, if he's there, you can take him, and then you don't need to worry about a backup tight end until much later. So Pitts is kind of the answer if you miss out on the top 3 tight ends. We just haven't seen a tight end like him go 4th overall like he did. He's going to probably set records for a rookie tight end, maybe. I can see him with anywhere between 800 to 1,000 yards and then maybe 7, 8, 9, 10 touchdowns. Who knows? But Mike Davis is the running back there. I don't trust Mike Davis for the full season, but I get it. If you wanted to grab a potential running back 2 in the 7th or 8th round, Mike Davis is going to be useful as long as he's healthy. The Falcons only kept 2 running backs on their roster after cut day. It's Mike Davis and Quadri Allison. So if anything happens to Davis, Quadri Allison's going to be the backup there. But Mike Davis, I mean, week 1, he's got 10 to 12 point floor for PPR league, so I get it. He does look best as your running back 3, though. Matt Ryan. Not really excited about Matt Ryan if you want to wait till empty on the quarterback 1. If you play in quarterback 1 leagues, Matt Ryan, he could be a part of your rotation. I think he looks best as a part of a duo. If you get like Matt Ryan and say Trevor Lawrence or Matt Ryan and maybe Ryan Tannehill, I think that's where he looks good. And then Russell Gage, just a high floor PPR guy that could be used as your wide receiver 5, something like that at the end of your bench. Falcons are interesting. I think new coaching change, new philosophy coming over from Tennessee could be a good thing for that offense. The Baltimore Ravens. I'm not excited about the Baltimore Ravens this year. They've just been hit with so many injuries and they've lost some talent on both sides of the ball. But Lamar Jackson, if you had to pick one Baltimore Raven, Lamar Jackson is your guy. 6th, 7th round. Again, he's kind of why I like waiting. I love Kyler Murray, but the fact that I can get Lamar Jackson a round or 2 rounds later doesn't make sense to me. So I'm picking from that tier in that 6th, 7th round. For quarterback 1 leagues, I like Lamar there. Mark Andrews, he's going to be, to me, I take Kyle Pitts over Mark Andrews just because he's more consistent. I think he's going to have more catches, maybe more boom plays too. Whereas Mark Andrews is a little bit boom bust. He's touchdown dependent, smaller passing attack too with Lamar at quarterback. Mark Andrews looks good to me, like in the 6th round. I don't love Mark Andrews. I prefer Pitts or Hawkinson in that range, but I get it. Mark Andrews is going to probably lead that team in targets this year, and he's going to be a fringe top 5 tight end. And then Gus Edwards. I actually really like Gus Edwards. If you decide to go, wide receiver early, or you get a tight end early and you're a little bit shy at running back, Gus Edwards, end of the 5th round, he looks pretty good. 6th round is where he looks nice too. He's going to lead the team in carries. Gus Edwards has a shot at 1,000 yards on the ground this year, and maybe double-digit touchdowns. And if he does carve out any of the receiving work that J.K. Dobbins was going to get, Gus Edwards, I have him as a running back too. He looks best as your running back, your 3rd running back off the bench, but I think Gus Edwards can be pretty fruitful for us this year in the 6th round. I'm not interested in the receiver. I don't want Raven Roulette with Marquise Brown, Sammy Watkins, or Rashad Bateman. I'll just pass. Just go with Lamar, Mark, and Gus. Buffalo. Stephon Diggs, absolutely love him. I don't care if you take him at the end of the 1st, 2nd round, he looks better. But Diggs, baller, take him, sign him up. Josh Allen, another thing with the quarterbacks. I think the first 3 quarterbacks off everyone's board is going to be Mahomes, Allen, and Murray. I really like Josh Allen if I can get him after Murray and Mahomes. So anywhere in that, end of the 5th round, if you get him in the 6th round, I think that's really, really good. But I prefer to wait on my quarterbacks until there's maybe the top 3-4 guys are gone, and then I take whoever's left over. But I love Josh Allen. If you wanted a piece of the Buffalo offense, I say Josh Allen's probably the best piece to get, because you just get everything with Buffalo in that. I do have Zach Moss listed here. Moss is an interesting guy. I know Singletary had a really nice preseason, but Buffalo was using Zach Moss a little bit more in the 2 games that Moss played. So I still think Moss is going to be the lead back. He's going to be the goal line back too. He caught a touchdown in the 3rd preseason game. So I think Zach Moss is going to be in for a nice sophomore season. He looks best as your running back, off the bench, your RB3 or your RB4. I think anywhere in like that 9th, 10th round range, he looks pretty appealing to me. And then the last guy I have on Buffalo is Emmanuel Sanders. He's just a savvy vet, and I don't trust Cole Beasley with the unvaccinated stuff and just kind of being outspoken about everything. I don't trust Cole Beasley. I know he's going to be a good, PPR slot receiver, but I think Emmanuel Sanders played pretty well with New Orleans last year. And I just think if I had to bet on somebody at the end of my drafts, just put Emmanuel Sanders at the end of your bench. You're getting a big piece of the pie with Buffalo, and Sanders could be pretty useful. Carolina Panthers, of course, I don't need to sell you on Christian McCaffrey. He should be the 101 in every draft. But the receivers, what do we do with DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Terrace Marshall Jr.? We draft them. in the 4th round, you can get DJ Moore coming off a top 25 season last year. I think he's a pretty good, wide receiver 2 bet. He got some upsides for some wide receiver 1 week as well. In that 1 preseason game where Sam Darnold played the first half, DJ Moore was the leading target receiver. I think he caught all 6 of his targets for 50 or something yards like that. So I like DJ Moore in a PPR league for sure. Robbie Anderson, he did lead the team in receptions and targets last year, but DJ Moore got him in yards. I still think Robbie Anderson's going to have a nice season. To me, though, Robbie Anderson looks best as your wide receiver 3 that can perform as a wide receiver 2, whereas DJ Moore is just he's a plain wide receiver 2 for me. I guess he does look better. Any wide receiver 2 would look better as your number 3, but I like DJ Moore. He just costs a little bit more. He's like a 4th round pick, sometimes a 5th round, depends if you're in a 10 or 12-man league. Then you get Robbie Anderson, who goes maybe a round and a half to 2 rounds later. You can get Robbie in the 6th and sometimes the 7th. He's an interesting, he's slippery sometimes. And then the last guy here, Terrace Marshall Jr. If you want to get funky with a rookie at the end of your drafts, 13th round, just slide Terrace Marshall on the bench. I think he might be the most productive rookie receiver this year. I really believe that. Terrace Marshall has looked great in the preseason. He was the best rookie receiver in preseason for me. So he's going to be on the field a lot as their number 3 receiver. And then Sam Darnold, don't trust him for 1 QB leagues, but he's going to be useful for super flex leagues. The Chicago Bears, David Montgomery. Round 3, bell cow running back. I don't have a problem taking David Montgomery anywhere there. I've seen him creep up into the end of the 2nd round. So if you like him, go ahead and get him. I think he's a top 15 back this season. Allen Robinson, same thing. He's a top 10 wide receiver. You can get him at the beginning of the 3rd round. No problem taking Allen Robinson. Darnell Mooney, a super sleeper here in like the 10th, 11th round. That's where it gets kind of fun. He's got upside of a wide receiver 3, I think, most weeks. And then the potential to put him on your bench as your number 4 or 5 does look pretty good to me. So I like Mooney. He should be growing in year 2. And then Justin Fields, if you get to the 12th, 13th round of your draft, and say you do get the Matt Ryan quarterback that we were talking about before, you pair him with Justin Fields, you're going to be fine. You'll be able to wait it out with Matt Ryan while Justin Fields slowly gets the crowd being chanted his name from the stands there. So I like the Bears offensive pieces there. The Cincinnati Bengals, this is a really interesting team to take a stance on. You got Joe Mixon, the first Bengal off the board in the second round. I really like Joe Mixon. If you guys have, there's still time to get the 2021 draft kit. You're going to get access to a lot of bonus articles and content. But when I do my running back studies here, you do get access to this projection cheat sheet here. But when I filter by opportunity share, this was a stat that we studied heavily. I have Joe Mixon fourth in opportunity, meaning he's going to get about 32% of the Bengals offense, which is quite a bit. He's got no Giovanni Bernard to mess with his receiving numbers this year. I think he could be a career high for targets and receptions. And then, of course, he gets all the running games. So if you're feeling risky with the round 2 pick, Joe Mixon, I know he hasn't been healthy, but man, he's got a lot of upside in this offense. Round 2, anywhere round 2. If he slides to round 3, that's a money pick there. And then what do you do with the receivers? I think if you like the safest option, you take Tyler Boyd in the 6th or the 7th round in a full PPR league. He's going to be money. He averaged 16 points per game with Joe Burrow last season before he got hurt. T. Higgins might be the highest upside receiver in this offense. He was phenomenal last year as a rookie. He was probably a top 20 wide receiver with Joe Burrow. And just the extra help of Jamar Chase being on the outside could help, just continue to give him one-on-one matchups. You can get T. Higgins into the 5th round, sometimes the 6th round. Jamar Chase is kind of in that same range right now. So I really don't care which Bengals receiver you want. T. Higgins and Chase in that 5th, 6th round range. Tyler Boyd goes in in the 6th, 7th, just like a round and a half later. So do your best, I guess. If you want Higgins or Chase, I'm fine with it. I prefer to take Tyler Boyd, though. Just wait for Tyler Boyd on the next round. And then Joe Burrow. I think he can be a quarterback 1 streamer. I wouldn't feel confident, throwing him out there right away as my QB1 while he still kind of comes back from his injury. But he looks good as a tandem. You get Joe Burrow and Matt Ryan. You get, you can get Joe Burrow and call it, who else pops up on the list here? Teddy Bridgewater. You can just kind of find someone to get you through the beginning of the season, and we should see this Bengals offense begin to grow a little bit as the season goes on. Cleveland Browns. I love this offense. You should draft a Cleveland Brown in fantasy football this year, whether it's Nick Chubb at the end of the 1st, or if he falls in the 2nd, that's cash money. You get Nick Chubb in the 2nd round. I absolutely love it. Odell Beckham's probably the next Brown off the board in that 5th or 6th round. He's a little bit risky, but you can't really find a higher upside guy in that 5th round range. So I like Odell Beckham, but I do find myself taking DJ Moore or even T. Higgins in the 5th round, sometimes Kyle Pitts in the 5th round too. So I like Odell Beckham, but again, I prefer Nick Chubb. You can wait for Kareem Hunt in the 6th, 7th round as a running back 2, 3 for you. And then Jarvis Landry, everyone just kind of continues to forget about him. You can get him in the 9th, 10th round. He could act as a wide receiver 3, but he looks best on your bench. And then if you just want to get the whole pie, Baker Mayfield. He's going to move that ball a lot. They like to throw the ball in the red zone. You think he's going to be hyper efficient this year? Baker Mayfield, he could be your. I think if you decided to go into your draft with I want Baker and Joe Burrow, that could work out. You just play the matchups. Baker Mayfield plays the Chiefs and the Texans the first 2 weeks. That should be enough time for Joe Burrow to get his mojo flowing. Dallas Cowboys, another offense here that I think you need to probably take a stance on and grab a player from. Ezekiel Elliott looks best at the end of the 1st round. I'm probably taking Devontae Adams and Travis Kelce over him. So maybe in that 8th pick, maybe that's where Elliott looks good. But the receivers, CeeDee Lamb, take him in the beginning of the 3rd round. If he falls to the end of the 3rd or the 4th round, that's easy pickings for me. Amari Cooper falls to the end of the 3rd, early 4th as well. I like him quite a bit. And then Dak Prescott, it seems like the shoulder thing is kind of fizzling away. Prescott looks really good, right around like when Lamar Jackson goes, that's where you're going to see Prescott go. So you can get Prescott at the end of the 6th or the 7th. That's Michael Gallup, the number 3 wide receiver for Dallas. He's got a legit shot at 1,000 yards and 8, 9 touchdowns this season. So I like Gallup. He looks best as that first guy off your bench, but he can be your wide receiver 3 for you this season. Blake Jarwin, still love him as a tight end sleeper. If you want to draft, a pair of tight ends, you can get a guy like Blake Jarwin and Robert Tonyan and just roll with that. That's something like that if you want to wait, a little bit for your tight ends. And then Tony Pollard, he's just a pure handcuff. If you do draft Ezekiel Elliott, I don't really recommend drafting the handcuff for that player. But Tony Pollard could work out. Just let him chill on your bench. If anything happens, you got a potential league-winning player there. The Detroit Lions, I recommend avoiding the Detroit Lions. DeAndre Swift is interesting in the 4th round. I'm not taking him in the 3rd round. He has a groin issue right now. He really hasn't been on the field practicing with this team. No preseason games, no nothing. It's been all Jamal Williams with the ones. So I'm kind of out on Swift in the 3rd round. The 4th round, I think about it, but there's just kind of too many receivers there for me. If you're going to draft any Detroit Lion this year, it's TJ Hawkinson. right around when Kyle Pitts goes, that's where I like Hockenson in the 5th round. 6th round is great, easy money for Hockenson. And then Jamal Williams, just because I think he might be the opening day starter. He looks good as a player on your bench. And with Swift, he's got a groin injury. I'm a little unsure on his health going into the season, which just makes me wonder if they're going to lean on Jamal to start the year. Denver, Teddy Bridgewater is now the quarterback, which is a really good sign for Jerry Jeudy. Jerry absolutely loves Teddy Bridgewater. He looked good in the preseason games with Teddy. I just think if you're drafting a player in the 6th round, Jerry Jeudy needs to be on your list. I absolutely love Jerry Jeudy. I think he's going to lead the team in targets, yards, and he'll probably compete with touchdowns for Cortland Sutton. I still like Sutton, but Cortland Sutton's probably a better receiver if Drew Lock's a quarterback, because Drew Lock's kind of just a throw-it-up 50-50 ball guy, whereas Bridgewater is more short area quickness, quick decisions. Jerry Jeudy gets open fast. Bridgewater just throws to the open guy. So I like Jeudy with Bridgewater. Noah Fant could be a fun tight end in the 7th, 8th, 9th round. Probably the 8th, 9th round is where I'm interested in Fant. So if you miss on Jeudy and Sutton, maybe Fant is the guy you want to get a piece of. Bridgewater is really, consistent. He's going to throw the ball almost 69-70% completion percentage. And then Javonte Williams, I think the 3rd preseason game showed a lot about what the Broncos think. They just didn't play Javonte Williams. They played all the other running backs. They just cut Royce Freeman today. Javonte Williams, it might take him a little while to just, fully take over that job, but I think they're going into the season with Javonte Williams being the starter. He looks best as your running back 3 to start the year, but I think he's going to be a top 20, top 24 running back this season. So the 7th round, 8th round, if he's hanging around, snag him, just be patient with him. I should probably just move Melvin Gordon off the list. I don't want anything to do with Melvin Gordon, so I'll update that later. And then Teddy Bridgewater, useful for super flex leagues. You can pair him with another quarterback, let him be your number 2, put him in matchups, that kind of thing. The Green Bay Packers. Another offense where I think you need a player from, whether it's Devontae Adams. I'm taking Adams as early as 5th, 6th overall. Aaron Jones needs to be in the same conversation. I think Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams are almost equally as lethal for fantasy football this year. The touchdowns went to Adams last year, but in 2019, they went to Aaron Jones. I think things can kind of be a little bit more balanced this year. I see Aaron Jones as a double-digit touchdown guy, anywhere between 1,500 and 1,600 total yards, a career-high receptions maybe with Jamal Williams gone. So I love Jones. I mean, at this point, I have Aaron Jones and Ezekiel Elliott kind of like neck and neck. If you want to take Aaron Jones 8th overall, I'm not gonna bat an eye. So I love both of those Packer players. Aaron Rodgers, again, quarterbacks. He's one of those guys that is in the tier of Dak Prescott and maybe even Tom Brady, Russell Wilson. They fall to the 7th round sometimes. Just hold tight, get your quarterback in the 6th or 7th round. If you want to secure him in the 6th, I get it. But 7th round is sometimes where he falls. You're getting the reigning MVP, top 5 quarterback upside every week. Absolutely love it. Robert Tonyan, a lot of people are fading him because of his touchdowns last year, but I don't see why that has to change so much. Rodgers looks for him in the red zone. You have Adams and Aaron Jones and MVS to kind of stretch the field. Tonyan gets a lot of wide open space matchups sometimes. So I still like Tonyan. He does require probably a solid backup too, just in case. I would, maybe throw in an Anthony Firkser or something like that. But I do like Tonyan. A.J. Dillon, I think he has some standalone value. They're still going to use him, maybe try to get him the ball 6, 7, 8 times per game. But if anything happens to Aaron Jones, you're looking at league-winning upside there on your bench. And then Marquez Valdez-Scantling, just put him on your team. At the end of your bench, get him in the 14th, 15th, 16th round. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is going to have a really good year. The Packer beat writers this summer, every play, every day, Marquez was making some kind of big play for a touchdown. And it sounds like he expanded his intermediate and his short area routes. I think he's going to be a really good player this year. He's got top, 36, top 40 wide receiver upside. So I love the value there. Randall Cobb, an interesting guy, but give me MVS over Cobb. I think Cobb could have a nice start to the year, but he's never really held up for a full season. Houston, I don't want to talk about Houston. If you want to take Brandon Cooks, you can take it. I'm not excited to take a Houston Texan this year. Don't give me any of the running backs. I don't want anything to do with this team. I'm staying away. But I get it. If you want Brandon Cooks, he's a cheap wide receiver 1. If that's just how it falls to you, I get it. Go ahead and take Brandon Cooks. But Houston, I can't do it. The Colts, T.Y. Hilton, he's got some kind of injury. We don't really know the severity of it. It sounds like it's not serious. That was the news today. But with the Colts, you're taking Jonathan Taylor. To me, he's a fringe running back 1. So I don't find myself drafting a lot of Jonathan Taylor. I see him going in the 1st round. I'm taking Aaron Jones over him all day. A couple other guys like Nick Chubb and some other running backs there. So I like Jonathan Taylor, but to me, he looks best in the 2nd round. If you're picking 12th overall and you're up to pick and you get to choose between a handful of running backs and receivers, Taylor and another running back, I'm fine with it. Put him in a tandem with two really good running backs. I like it. I'm a little bit nervous. Naheem Hines, Marlon Mack is there. I'm curious. I love Jonathan Taylor, but I'm just curious how this offense will work. Michael Pittman Jr., with the T.Y. Hilton news, I think Pittman's got top 40 upside this year. I think he can be a wide receiver 3 most weeks. He looks best as the receiver you pull up off the bench, though. He's pretty late. He goes like in the 10th, 11th, 12th round sometimes, so just watch it. I think he's one of the more interesting sleeper picks this year. And again, I keep coming back to the Colts drafted Pittman before Jonathan Taylor in that draft. So they liked him more, and they're like, okay, if we get Taylor, but we need Pittman. So just something to think about. Naheem Hines, just a PPR back for your bench. You whip him out. You don't really know what you're going to get. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's 6 points. But he can be a useful piece for you on your bench. Carson Wentz, super flex leagues. He's fine as a quarterback too. Put him in a tandem or a trio here. And then Paris Campbell. Kind of the same thing as Michael Pittman Jr. He's never been healthy, but he's got a lot of upside. And if T.Y. Hilton's missing some time at the beginning of the season, he's worth a shot at the end of your bench. He's basically free in draft. So I'm okay with taking a shot on Paris Campbell. Jacksonville. James Robinson, the first Jaguar to go off the board, somewhere in the 3rd round. I'm fine with it. I find myself wanting to get wide receivers, though, in that range. So if you wanted to, say you go wide receiver, tight end to start your draft, Robinson can be a part of your plan in the 3rd round. He's a running back, too, this year. He's going to have some top 5, top 10 games every now and then. But I think his floor is a little bit lower this year. Who knows what they're going to do with Carlos Hyde, but I like James Robinson more as a running back, too, not so much as a 1. Laviska Shenault, if you have to draft one Jaguar receiver, that's the guy that I want in the 7th, 8th round. I think he's going to lead the team in receptions, maybe even targets this year. Marvin Jones, I do like Marvin Jones quite a bit. He knows the offense. He's been pretty productive in the preseason, too. I like him as a bench piece. Same thing with DJ Chark. I think these are guys that we can't trust week 1. Let's watch and see what happens with this offense. But Jones and Chark can be on your bench and potentially be a wide receiver 3 for you. And then Trevor Lawrence, I think, especially week 1 against Houston, he could be a top 10, top 12 quarterback option. But he looks best. Super flex leagues. Sign me up, quarterback 2/3. And then he can just be your quarterback 2 in 1 quarterback leagues. The Chiefs, I don't need to tell you to draft the Chiefs. You know Travis Kelce's a top 10 pick. You know Tyreek Hill's a fringe top 10 pick. Mahomes, I don't like to be the first guy to take the quarterback in my league. If you had to do it, I'm fine with it, but it's got to be round 4, round 5 for me to do it. I really like this offense. If you want a piece of it, you get Kelce, you get Hill, or you can get Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the 3rd round. I think that's a pretty good option too. Or you wait for Mecole Hardman at the end of the draft. So Chiefs, I think it's a really good idea to get one of these guys, Kelce or Hill in the 1st, maybe Clyde in the 3rd, and Mahomes in the 4th, 5th round range. The Las Vegas Raiders, Darren Waller, I think he belongs at the end of the 2nd round. He's going to lead the team in everything, receptions, targets, yards, touchdown, like all that stuff. So Darren Waller, baller. If you get him in the 3rd round, I think that's where the value is. I'd take him as early as like 23, 24 overall. Josh Jacobs, still going to be a bell cow back, I think. He's going to be more of a up and down running back too. He's got top 24 upside. I like him, but just got to prepare yourself for maybe the up and down, boom bust nature of Josh Jacobs. Henry Ruggs and Bryan Edwards, though. One of those guys is going to be the leading receiver. I think it's fine to take a chance on both guys. One of them for sure. But for ADP cost, they're really cheap. Bryan Edwards, it sounds like he had a really good camp this year. Henry Ruggs should be more involved in this offense. And I just think the Raiders might be throwing the ball a little bit more this year. They have a really tough schedule. I think they're going to have to throw to keep up with teams. And then Derek Carr, just a quarterback 2 for super flex leagues. Nothing really to see there. I'm not interested in Kenyon Drake. I'm not interested in really anything else in this offense. I did let John Brown go, but it's not enough. The Raiders, I'm a little bit nervous about the Raiders. For the Chargers, this offense you want a piece of. Eckler, he looks best as your 2nd round pick. If you have to take him 10th, 11th, 12th overall, I'm fine with it. In PPR leagues for sure. Keenan Allen, an excellent 3rd round pick for PPR leagues. You can get Justin Herbert. Again, waiting to the 7th round, you can just collect Justin Herbert or Aaron Rodgers. It sounds like the best plan for me. Mike Williams, one of those 9th, 10th round receivers that you can just put on your bench, see what happens the first week, and maybe you get a top 36 wide receiver out of him. Maybe he's a little bit more consistent this year. And then Jared Cook, don't sleep on Jared Cook. Justin Herbert, he lit up when he was talking about Jared Cook. He's a savvy player. Basically, the coaching staff came from New Orleans, where Cook has been the last couple seasons, and Cook knows it. He's a very good player. He's still not that old. I think he's maybe 31, 32 years old, so he's still got some left in the tank, and it sounded like Herbert was a fan of Jared Cook. The Los Angeles Rams, take with the receivers, whether it's Robert Woods at the end of the 3rd round or Cooper Kupp in the 4th round. These guys are both 90-plus catch receivers this year. I think for PPR leagues, it's going to be a lot of fun with Matt Stafford. Darrell Henderson, he does look best to me as a top 30 running back, a guy that you put on your bench and pull him up on matchups. Probably in the 6th round range there, right around Gus Edwards and Damian Harris. But Matthew Stafford, he can be your quarterback 1 this year in 1 QB leagues. He goes like 9th, 10th round sometimes. So he's usually the 11th or 12th quarterback off the board. I'm fine with waiting for him. And then you get Tyler Higbee, a sleeper at tight end. You can get him really late too. So if you miss on the top tier tight ends, just grab Tyler Higbee and like Blake Jarwin or something and see how it works out. And then Sony Michel, I think it's going to take a Darrell Henderson injury for him to get fantasy relevant, but I'm open to stashing him on my team and seeing what happens, as Henderson has never really been healthy for a full season. The Dolphins, I think this is a really fun offense to be a part of. I think the best advice would be to just take Tua as your quarterback too, because then you get the whole pie. I think the running backs are going to be a little bit of annoying. Gaskin's still the best one in the 7th round. That's probably where I'm comfortable taking him as my running back 2, 3. If you're taking him in the 5th or 6th round, I think you're missing out on some values there. But Gaskin going to be the lead back, Malcolm Brown, and who else they got there? Malcolm Brown, and I keep forgetting his name. They have a 3rd running back that is escaping me, Salvin Ahmed. So we gotta be patient with it. I love Myles Gaskin as a receiver. I just don't know how the backfield's going to roll out. And then Jalen Waddle, I think he's the best wide receiver to value. He's got the connection with Tua. He's the slot receiver. I think he's going to be. He might lead the team in receptions this year. And then Gesicki, I'm fine with Gesicki, but because they added so much talent in the receiving game, I think we got to just pump the brakes on Gesicki. He can be a fringe tight end 1. I have him here on the list as a player that I like to draft. But if you draft Gesicki, just make sure you get a decent backup with him. Let's see, we got 12 more teams to cover. I'm going to start going a little quickly. We're going on about 27 minutes. So the Vikings, draft Dalvin Cook, draft Justin Jefferson, and draft Adam Thielen. Irv Smith out for this season. That just makes me love Jefferson and Adam Thielen even more. They really don't have a number 3 target in this offense. Kirk Cousins, he's a fine quarterback too for Superflex leagues. He can get you what you need as a backup quarterback in 1 QB leagues as well. And then the tight end, I know they traded for Chris Herndon. Are you going to trust Chris Herndon again this year? People have been pumping him up the last couple of seasons. I just don't buy it. Tyler Conklin is the tight end you want in Minnesota. You can get him with one of your last picks in the draft. I think he's going to be flirting with maybe 50 catches this year. If you just wait till empty, put Tyler Conklin as your tight end too, and I think it could be good. He was going to be in competition with Irv Smith. Like, he was going to be on the field a lot with Irv Smith. He's a really good all-around tight end. They like to have him on the field. And even their coach, Mike Zimmer, said, just because Kyle Rudolph is gone doesn't mean more on the plate for Irv Smith. It means more on the plate for Tyler Conklin. So the coaching staff likes him quite a bit. The Patriots, Cam Newton, gone. Mac Jones is in. This elevates the play of Damian Harris, Jacoby Myers, and Jonnu Smith. If you want Damian Harris, I take him as early as the 6th round. Jacoby Myers is a really cheap wide receiver 1 option, maybe in the 9th, 10th round. Jonnu Smith, you can collect Jonnu Smith, he could lead the team in targets. Like, who knows? Like, Mac Jones could really just funnel targets to Jonnu Smith, but I think the scarcity of the position at tight end, Jonnu Smith could have himself a nice tight end 1 season. And then Mac Jones, Superflex leagues, I don't try to stay away from 1 QB leagues, but I think Superflex leagues is where it's going to be useful for Mac. The New Orleans Saints, Jameis Winston is the starter. You're drafting Kamara in the top 5 if you can get him there. Marquez Callaway is really the only other player I trust on this team. He's probably in the 9th, 10th round range after his breakout preseason game. So I like Callaway. He has a connection with Winston, and Winston can be a quarterback 2 for you or a backup on your 1 QB bench. So the Saints, I'm interested. They don't have as many playmakers as they used to have. So it's interesting to see what happens. The Giants, you can take Saquon Barkley at the end of the 1st round. I'm fine with that. Outside of that, really, it's only Sterling Shepard that I'm interested in. I'm crossing off Kenny Galladay, Evan Ingram, Kadarius Toney. Like, Sterling Shepard, he's a useful receiver. He's going to probably lead the team in targets anyways. So I don't mind his value on my bench. The Jets, it's really Corey Davis is the one New York Jet you need to draft in the 8th, 9th round. He's the wide receiver 1 for this team, has a connection with Wilson. He just pummeled him targets in the preseason. Elijah Moore, a sleeper for you in the double-digit rounds. And then Zach Wilson, a fun quarterback for Superflex leagues, and he can be your backup in QB1 leagues. The Eagles, I don't know what to do with the Eagles because I'm still kind of torn about Jalen Hurts in this offense. I think Hurts is a fringe quarterback 1 this year. He goes around Brady, Ryan Tannehill as like a fringe top 10 quarterback. If you do draft Jalen Hurts, I think you want to make sure you get a promising QB2 just in case. I mean, the team has Joe Flacco as a backup who looked really good this preseason. And then they just traded for Gardner Minshew. I'm not sure if this is insurance for Hurts or if he's got a short leash or what it is. But I'm kind of concerned about the Eagles. I don't have Miles Sanders on this list. I think Devonta Smith is the leading receiver, but he could be up and down as Jalen Hurts is not the most accurate quarterback. I think the one player I like the most for Eagles and ADP is Zach Ertz. I think a lot of people want Dallas Goedert to be used more as the tight end one, but don't sleep on Ertz. It seems like he's in a good space. He had a really good preseason. I think the new coaching staff and the new kind of change of culture helped him. There was a really good article that I read today about him just being at peace finally and enjoying the work again. So I think Zach Ertz, end of your draft, like you can wait till tight end and you can wait till the end and get a tight end in Zach Ertz. The Steelers, I think you need to draft a Steeler this year. I would take Najee Harris in the first round. At the end of the first round, 10th, 11th, 12th pick. I love Najee Harris. He's going to get a ton of volume, ton of catches. I don't care about the offensive line. We've seen, James Robinson was a top 5 running back last year with a crap offensive line. So don't give me that with Najee Harris. I think they're going to run the ball. They'll run the ball and run the ball. The receivers, if you don't get Najee, you want a receiver from Pittsburgh. Deontay in the 4th round, Juju ended the 4th and the 5th, Chase Claypool in the 6th round. Try to get a Pittsburgh receiver. And don't sleep on Ben Roethlisberger. He could be your option. If you wait to empty on quarterbacks, you can start Ben Roethlisberger and draft Justin Fields or something crazy like that. He looks great as a quarterback, too, in Superflex leagues. And then Eric Ebron, we'll see. He's kind of a flyer at tight end, but I think that's a fruitful offense to be a part of. The 49ers, George Kittle, 3rd-round pick. I'm fine with it. I don't love taking a tight end in the 3rd round. There's just a lot of receivers and other pieces that I like, but I get it. If you want a top 3 tight end, you got to do George Kittle in the 3rd. Brandon Ayuk, though, is probably the best player on this team for ADP-wise that I like. He's a 5th or sometimes a 6th-round pick, so I love Ayuk. I think he's going to lead the team in targets and receptions. Deebo Samuel goes about a round after Brandon Ayuk for some reason. If you miss Ayuk, I think you should target Deebo Samuel for sure. Both Ayuk and Samuel can be productive wide receiver 3s this season. Raheem Mostert here is the running back 1 for this team. If you want a running back, I think Mostert provides a lot of value. He can be your week 1 starter for you as your number 2, but he looks best as a 3. Trey Sermon, you got to be patient with him. You can collect him and put him on your bench and see what happens. All it takes is a Mostert injury, and you're looking at a huge workload for Sermon. And then Trey Lance, if you want to get fun, just put Trey Lance on your team in the 13th round as your QB2. See what happens. He might be starting for you by midway through the season. And then our last 4 teams here, Seattle, you got to get a Seattle Seahawk. DK Metcalf in the 2nd round. Chris Carson, maybe Chris Carson in the 3rd. I like him better if he falls to the 4th. Tyler Lockett, a dynamite 4th-round pick. And then Russell Wilson. Again, that 7th-round spot for quarterbacks. Russell Wilson looks really good. They're going to be doing a new offense. They got a new offensive coordinator in there. It might be a little bit more fun for fantasy. So I love Wilson in the 7th. And then Gerald Everett is a good sleeper tight end at the end of the draft for you. Tampa Bay. You want Chris Godwin or Mike Evans. You got to target one of those guys. They're both going to be in for big seasons this year as, top 15 wide receivers. Godwin was the wide receiver 2 just 2 years ago, guys. So don't sleep on that. He had a big preseason game week 3. Antonio Brown, if you miss on Godwin or Evans, Antonio Brown can be yours in the 8th round. I think he's a top 36 receiver, looks good as a wide receiver 3 for you. Tom Brady, again, another quarterback you can wait for in the 7th, 8th round. And then Ronald Jones, I think it's clear to me that he's going to lead the team in carries. He looked good in his 3rd preseason game. And Leonard Fournette, Giovanni Bernard, those guys are more pass-catching backs for me. Ronald Jones looks really good, though, on your bench. And again, Tampa Bay is going to win 13 games this year. They're going to be running the ball with Ronald Jones in those games. And then Tennessee, probably the most exciting offense for me this year. You got Derrick Henry, 1st-round pick, love it. A.J. Brown, I'd take him anywhere in the 2nd round, mid to late 2nd round. Julio Jones belongs in the 4th or 5th round for me as a wide receiver 3. And then Tannehill, he's got 8 runs to throw the ball to. He's going to be a quarterback 1 this year. You can get him kind of right around where Tom Brady goes in that 8th or 9th round range. I just love waiting for quarterbacks because you can get them in the 7th, 8th, 9th round. And then Anthony Firkser. If you wanted to wait for tight end, Firkser is one of my favorite tight ends. I think you can start him week 1. He's probably going to get 4 or 5 catches in that game. And he should be a really steady target for Tannehill throughout the season. The Washington football team, another really fun team. Really, these bottom 4 teams, Seattle, Tampa, Tennessee, and Washington. I love these offenses. But Gibson, I'd take Gibson as, the 1st pick in the 2nd round. I love Gibson as a top 5 potential running back this year. He's going to be a top 10 running back in my book, but I love the upside. He looks best as your number 2, though. Terry McLaurin, love him in the 3rd round. And then Logan Thomas. If you do get the ability to draft Logan Thomas this year, he's got top 5 upside. Ryan Fitzpatrick throws the ball a little bit more down the field, so Logan Thomas could have more yards than he did last year. It's the targets we're worried about. So the targets could come down, but the yards and the touchdowns could go up with Fitzpatrick compared to Smith. And then Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's a quarterback too for Superflex leagues. You can stream him in one quarterback leagues, whatever you need. But that's it. That's all the teams there. I do have, if you read the article, link in the description below, I have all the guys there that I don't really want to talk about, but if you stick to this list and just draft players on this list, I think you're going to have a good fantasy football season. So that's going to do it for me. That was a lot of action, a lot of fun discussion in this one. So thank you guys so much for your time. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. We're going to be pumping out videos next week for week 1 of the regular season. So I'm super excited to have you guys on board. And I don't know. Thank you for your time. Good luck with your draft. Comment with questions. You can follow me on Twitter. You can DM me on Twitter with direct questions, and check out the 2021 draft kit. Thank you guys so much. Have a good night. Peace.